we're gonna go ahead and start recording now, actually. So we'll just wait on them, and once Dave gets back, we'll just get going on this. Thanks for coming and being here on time and everything, so we can actually sit down and do this interesting, crazy thing we're about to do. I've never done it before, as I said to Ryan and Brock. I've just done redraft leagues. And it's been fun. I've been nervous. Well, I've never had a group that I could trust. I think I could trust to commit to something like that. To commit to something long term, where you know that each member isn't going to bounce out. And so I think now, after 5 years of doing it, we know who really is invested and loves to play the game and wants to really venture into this dynasty style of play. And I've been wanting to do it, but I want to do it the right way. And I don't want to make any mistakes, because I don't know all the intricacies of what happens in the off season, or all the little details that are different than just the redraft league. And we're very thankful to have David Cooley and Ryan Haverland, who've done dynasty leagues before and could guide us through this. And David Cooley is going to run this meeting today and go through all the rules and write our Constitution, which we're very thankful for. David Cooley won Mass Capital last year. Congratulations. And was in the finals at JC Wasp, and he just knows what he's doing. And
it's nice to get lucky. What'd you say? Yeah. Don't worry, I won't make the playoffs in either league next year.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Seems to be the post-championship hangover.
I know. You get cocky, and then everybody gets hurt, and you make all the wrong picks.
It was cool having all three of them for a couple weeks upstairs. It was sad to give them out, but yeah, she liked them actually. Yeah, she was worried about the cats and them destroying them, but yeah. But I was happy to send them where they belong. But when Ray gets back, we'll just go from point to point and cover any kind of concerns or questions, and he'll take the reins on it. And we'll make a nice organic conversation.
Yeah, this is awesome. Nice thing about Dynasty is that there is no off season. It just keeps going. And we can shape that however we want. So we could have a dead period, but I'll get into that as far as what that could potentially look like. So Ray and I are in the same Dynasty League together. It's a little bit different than what I think we should do today, or at least think about. We do a salary cap Dynasty League, so there's a whole nother dimension of complexity to it, where you have to think about player salary caps. So I don't want to propose that to you guys, because there is a lot of maintenance involved with it. If you guys are really open to it, I can show you what that looks like, but we don't have to go that way. Most traditional Dynasty leagues is you have an initial draft, you keep all of those players for as long as you want, and then the only thing you're making decisions on is roster construction. So if we have 20 players on a roster, you're just thinking about what 20 guys do I want to keep year after year. And obviously that changes based off of player situations, because whatever, that all varies, right? That is a traditional Dynasty league.
So when we talk about salary cap, we're talking about an allotted amount of money to keep players every year?
Correct. So the way that ours works is our initial draft, we started with $1,000 Monopoly dollars, and each team we did an auction draft, and then that was your assigned value for that player. And then and to be honest, with salary cap leagues, you can set them up a lot of different ways, but the way that we did it is after that first draft, you assigned a contract to that player. So 1 year to up to 5 years. So if you did a 5-year deal, every year or whatever, so if you do more than 1 year, every year after that player's salary goes up 20%. So it gets more and more expensive. So Christian McCaffrey was probably the highest paid player at that time, probably still was if you drafted him last season. His salary was very high, so he wasn't kept. He was cut after the first year. So to your point, if we go something like that where there's limitations on how long you keep a player, because there's going to be ebbs and flows as far as how quickly a team on the bottom can recover to get towards a competing status. There's technically like 3 different windows a team is in. They're either in that middle ground where they could have a good season, could not, which obviously there's a lot that goes into it as far as determining that, and it's all subjective. There's the contenders, their team looks awesome on paper, and then there's the teams that are bottom that are rebuilding. So obviously, if we're all starting, everybody should be technically competing the first year, unless somebody comes in and just like drafts unproven.
Where they're just setting up for the future, like where they're just getting young talent, maybe.
Young talent, right? Exactly. So like somebody who hasn't maybe not played yet, or like maybe they're a rookie or whatever, they're gonna put more emphasis on that because you get to keep that player forever, in theory. So, to your point, if we collectively think, hey, we shouldn't have guys kept forever, because there's going to be times where a team is on the bottom, maybe for multiple years. Is that kind of how it was? Or was it more like the tanking issue?
It's mainly like having the cap with a ceiling and then a floor. So you could totally tank, right? And you could, a team at the top, if there was 3 or 4 teams competing, not one team could get all the good players for that year and sacrifice everybody. So if you assign the values and you have $1,000 monopoly on it, your ceiling was like $1,300 a player. So you can make trades and go for the win that year, but you know that team can't get more than that, as you can go out and acquire that talent too. And then the teams at the bottom have to stay somewhat competitive. They can't totally tank. So that prevented questionable dump trades. Stuff like that.
I think on the other side of that too, though, if we weren't, just devil's advocate, if we weren't in a salary league, if we were in a league where we could keep and we just set up some of those safeguards where it's, okay, you can't trade picks more than X amount of years in the future. You can't clearly tank. You have Bijan, you can't be starting Jarek McKinnon, just clearly trying to tank for better draft position. We could put some of those things into position as well.
And I have some proposals for that.
Yeah.
To help. I have specific tanking things we should consider, because it's happening in our league. We didn't catch these things, and this is year 4, right? We're going into year 4?
3.
Because we drafted in 21, 22. Yeah, we're going into year 4. This last year, some teams had some salary cap issues, but regardless of format, you're going to have teams that are like, okay, I don't have the horses to make this run. I'm just going to try to tank. So one thing we're proposing in our league is like an anti-tanking rule, and I've done some research on it, and it basically, you take the bottom, we're in a 14-man league, so the bottom 7 don't make the playoffs. There's already a lottery system for those teams. So we have lottery balls.
I got a bingo machine.
You have a bingo machine?
Yeah. I use it for the octagon.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a nice quality one.
So if we want to incorporate bingo balls, we can. But we have that, but we also, and I'm going to propose this, I don't even know if you know this, but having the bottom 7 teams be determined by reverse max points for. So in your example, they're benching Bijan, putting in Jarek McKinnon. That's a roster decision. Like, a lot of roster decisions should be subjective, right? Because you think this player, and some people just, hey, I want to roll the dice and just hit it big with said player. Run the team however you want to run it. But this fixes, I'm purposely starting shitty players.
Regardless.
So
short-term tanking rather than trading your best player for a couple draft picks.
Correct.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Correct. There's correct ways to tank. If you have an older player and he's really good, Christian McCaffrey, trade him for future picks, future rookie picks, or maybe some unproven younger guys to get value for the future. And then that way you can get rid of talent. You're depleting your roster to potentially be worse for that year to get a better draft pick for the next season, instead of just starting crappy players in lieu of the whatever. So the max points for fixes that, because if you bench your crappy players, they still go off. The system doesn't see who you started. It's like best ball. It's like whatever your max points for that year would have been is what you could have had if you started your best players throughout the thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Clear as mud?
Can't just run best ball in it?
We could do best ball,
Just do that and fix that.
but there's no head-to-head component with best ball.
Well,
honestly, I think not having a salary, it's simpler. I think it comes down to just, can you trust the people you're with? And I think that's on Aaron. He's the one that brought us together.
Yeah.
You know, I think I played.
I was about to say, yeah, we want to start off.
We implemented the salary after the other league.
It's a little complicated though. It's a little complicated though to implement a salary cap.
After?
Yes, because how do you assign values to players that are already on teams?
I think, well, this first draft, we're doing an auction for it.
Yeah, right. I would assume so.
I'm guessing we don't want to have a dynasty league where you're signing these players on a snake draft.
I wouldn't.
If we do salary cap, it has to be auction.
But
If you don't do, it can be snake, but I think auction's better. So I'll tell you the difference. From I'll be honest, I haven't been in like a traditional dynasty league. The salary cap creates a little bit more turnover. You can't keep all the good players forever.
Because the big thing is that the salary cap grows by 5% each year, but the player value grows by 20% each year.
So you have to get rid of players.
Do we have to figure out the salary cap stuff, or does Sleeper do that?
So here's the fun part with commissioners and Ray helps me with we have an Excel spreadsheet. Every single player's on it that's on our roster, their assigned value, their contract. It's a maintenance thing. Like, it takes time. Ray does a lot of the heavy lifting for me there. I'm like, you bid on a player and we can talk about that later, but even a free agent, that guy's assigned a contract. Because you picked him up in the middle of the season, you spent $15 fab on him or whatever, that has to be assigned to the contract. It's just a lot of maintenance involved. Commissioner-wise, it's a pain in the ass.
The thing about this, because I hate the idea of keeping players forever, and I don't think that represents the NFL at all. NFL, you want to keep a player 4, maybe 5 years, especially if they're a desirable player. And so I think we should think about either limiting how long you can keep players, which does leave a tracking element. I was thinking how to simulate that would be just to run it almost like keepers, but cut down on the number you can keep. You can't keep everybody. You've got a 20-man roster, you can keep 13. Essentially, you're building your dynasty and being forced to turn over a chunk of your roster and feed the waiver wires every year, or feed the draft pool each year.
I've thought about it, because I think there's 3 different ways to do it. Keep a guy forever. You have a roster limit as far as how long, not because at the end of the day you're flirting with, this is a big keeper league, right? It's either you do a salary cap, you do a traditional dynasty league, which is you keep a guy as long as you want, or you have a length of years you can only keep said player. Maybe we say, hey, 5 years is the max. Granted, there's maintenance involved in that, because we need to know every player that's on every roster, when they were acquired, when they got cut. I will tell you, Sleeper does a good job of saying when you acquired said player.
That's starting to sound appealing.
that's how I've.
It's a little bit more reasonable, but it does change the economics of the league a little bit. For example, in a traditional dynasty league, receivers, quarterbacks, they're, depending on how we do scoring, they're a little bit more, hey, I'm going to have this receiver for 12 years. Mike Evans is what, 31, 32 or something like that? Somebody's had him for 12 years on probably their dynasty league, or 10 years or whatever. With the running backs, they have a shorter shelf life because they're out of the league 26, 27, 28, or whatever. There's strategies involved based off of doing one way or the other. So if you're doing research on traditional dynasty leagues, they're going to tell you draft your receivers, draft your quarterbacks, other things like that. Other positions take longer to develop, like the tight end position. There's that to consider as well. But it's all fair points. Do you guys want to play it traditionally where you can keep guys forever? At the end of the day, somebody's going to draft Patrick Mahomes. Do you want them to have Patrick Mahomes forever? Because he's apparently going to be around for a while.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the dynasty league, I like the idea of having big rosters with kind of the intent to be able to stash some of these young guys, but on the other side, you don't want to have those Patrick Mahomes situations, so I just don't know how you strike that balance. And also, I think, and I know it's really hard to foster, but like a really trade-based economy as opposed to like a salary-based economy for turnover. I like the idea of that. I'm not sure how you like foster that environment.
The traditional dynasty format will produce more trades.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, if you want to compete in a certain year, or hey, I really like this player, or if somebody has Patrick Mahomes and maybe they're not doing so well, you offer them a trade to get Patrick Mahomes. So obviously, trades will come into play, but I think if we go the traditional route, people just have to be okay saying, hey, I need to rebuild my team, and it might take 1, 2, 3, 4 years to get there. 4 years is a long time.
Or even just to keep around with having.
Yeah, like more than, like we still need to figure out roster sizes and other things like that. Like a traditional dynasty league, I think, in my opinion, is 20 spots total. And then you have 5 taxi squad, which is like a developmental squad. Yeah, so it's there for your rookies.
It sounds horrible. That sounds disgusting.
Oh, so here's the
the wire, fucking. That's it.
the waiver wire is not there,
Yeah, I mean,
but it's
which
We say that every year, but I picked up Ty Chandler in like week 12 or something and won league because of it.
yeah. And for our league, it's 15 spots, or I think we got down to 14 because we got rid of kickers. 14 spots, 5 taxi squad. It's a little bit shallower, but it's a 14-man league too. So correct. It's the waiver wire is not going to be
Dynasty League's a whole different
thing. So if you live and die by the waiver wire, you got to figure out a different way.
I'm okay with more trading than just like sifting through waivers for diamonds in the rough.
There's still guys there though. Like there's still guys you want to sit on the back of the bench and hope.
But I think it's more representative of real football because the guys don't really hit waivers.
That's true.
Really, Puka Nacua was not
If you look at the
on waivers.
Yeah.
And like, you just figured it out.
If you
Somebody
look at
jumped on
like
it
the
after
trade
week 1.
deadline, there's very few like meaningful guys that just got picked up off the streets. But the good teams made trades. And there's going to be a handful of teams that see, oh, I'm in position. And what the salary cap just does is say, okay, make sure that doesn't all get funneled to one team. And there's ways, instead of the Excel spreadsheet, you guys running much more complicated, probably accurate dynasty salary, but we just, okay, a player's $10 this year. Next year he's 15. You add $5 of salary. And the next year you add $10. So he gets more expensive. And then if the $10 player is 15, then he's 25, then he's 40. Eventually you cut him. And then the teams that are playing lower on that salary cap, they go into the next year's draft. I'm at $150 and they're at 240 because they were going for the championship. I got more draft capital to spend. So they've got more draft dollars to spend, just like real football. They got more cap room to go out and buy some good players in next year's draft to help keep it competitive.
I have a quick question. You were saying in your current league, cap goes up 5% every year, and player value goes up 20% every year. So there's this constant fluctuation. Now, for maintenance of it, once you have your formulas in place, it seems most of that maintenance happens up front, and then it's just constant maintenance. Is it? Who's doing the?
Ray does a lot of the heavy lifting for me.
I guess on a scale of 1 to 10,
Excel, so that
how giant of a pain in the ass is that?
How much time does it take?
And would it be worth it for Aaron to be, like, this is a real question, to be offering like real oversight and then all of us chipping in to help maintain this thing? Like, at what point are you reaching diminishing returns on the amount of fucking tedious effort you're putting in?
Yeah.
After the draft, how long is it? We got to input every single player,
Yeah.
their contract.
Yeah.
Well,
I found a way to copy some file out of Super that we imported the first year, and that worked fine. The only quibble I have with that is it only gave the initial for their first names. That's why
Oh
I
yeah.
like that. But once you get it built, all you have to do is add the weekly waiver guys, and who.
Which we could do differently, Ray. We could do differently. We could have Fab just separate.
That's true.
That way there's no maintenance behind it.
Because the way we have it set up is your auction money is anything you have left over after the auction is your fat money for the rest of the season.
But there's 2 drafts too.
Chunk of money.
There's a rookie draft and a veteran draft.
Yeah.
And we do the rookie draft June 1st. and then we do the veteran draft two weeks before.
It's like, what powers does commissioner have? Because however you want to set it up, if Aaron has, I don't know what input power he has, you just do a live auction, whatever budget we want, and he just enters in the roster and the numbers.
The nice thing is Sleeper will figure out that, and Ray made a good point as far as filtering it. I'll be honest with you, salary cap fantasy football is fucking awesome. I love it. I'm a big fan of it. If we do want the roster turnover, it's just, you guys just have to be okay with, you have to check your Excel spreadsheet to know how many years left are on a player, what their dollar value is. Because at the end of the day,
I'll be willing to learn how to do all that stuff. I want it to be as successful as possible. I'm willing to do the tedious stuff to keep a really great experience for everybody. But it's something like, for me, it seems like something we can do like right after the season's over. So we have all that time. Maybe we have maybe a month or 2 months where you decide what you want to do, and then maybe there's a decision time.
The only problem with that is trading. So the way that we have it set up now, and this helps with teams not getting too stacked, is the salary cap is a hard cap. So first year's $1,000. So if I wanted to acquire Christian McCaffrey or Travis Kelce or whatever, I have to pay for his contract onto my team. So I have to offload players that I have on my team to make the salaries work. So if I had player A and player B and they're $100 and Travis Kelce was $100, I'd have to swap, and that team would have to pick up player A and player B to make the salary cap work. And I don't know if that's similar to how you do it.
That's more in depth. The way we do it is you got a cap for your draft day cap, buy your players, and then in season on trades, promotes it. You can't go below this amount to make sure your team's competitive. You can't go above this amount to make sure you didn't the lucky golden ticket winner of the dump trades that were made. And then the next year, you can choose to keep all those players, or you can choose to get rid of them and start over. There's usually a minimum number of keepers. You got to keep X amount. You can't keep all 20. You got a range of 9 to 13. On that determines kind of the budget you're walking in with.
And I think we should keep it simplified to keep everyone understanding everything.
The simple way to do it is just do a traditional dynasty league and take the salary cap out of it. The salary cap makes it more complicated, and it's like a third dimension because there's some players' contracts are unfavorable, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna have to probably cut this guy, or he's just on a bad contract. Jonathan Taylor right now in our league, he's on a bad contract. He's the most expensive guy. We started the league when he was #1 running back, right, or something like that. Or I think you had him on your first year, and he went off. Yeah. You were ecstatic, but at the end of the day, it turned into a bad contract because it's just the way the league went. That guy was just the most expensive. So you run into that dynamic of figuring it out.
Well, what's everybody's temperature on this right now? What do you?
I don't give two shits as long as I'm told beforehand. We get to draft day sometimes and somebody's, oh fuck, I didn't know about this. Read the fucking rules before draft day. So my thing is, if we say everything up front, I don't personally care because I've told myself if I didn't prepare for the draft, it's my fucking fault. But that's how I play.
Everything will be written. That's why we're doing a constitution. So if it's not in the constitution, it has to be determined. And I have a thing on new rule creation and how that will look.
My question is, would a happy medium, because I've never done a salary dynasty, anything like that, but would a happy medium between these two be doing basically keeper-based, traditional? Say we do an auction draft, because I know we all want to do an auction, but then we do it keeper-based where we can only keep players for X amount of years. That way we still have the turnover, but we don't necessarily have the big structure of salary cap, because that seems
That's where I'm kind of
I feel like it simplifies it.
Yeah.
It simulates it, but it simplifies it. It represents what the NFL does, which is
I think I'm hearing, and I don't know if I don't understand that.
Dave, what do you?
It sounds like.
Dave, what do you think?
I like the idea of it feeling more like the NFL, but I also hate the idea of what if you drafted Trey Lance? Now he's on the Cowboys, we're 3 years in, maybe in 2 years Dak is cut and Trey Lance is the best fucking quarterback in the NFL. I agree. You're like, oh, now I have to fucking drop him, even though he's the best. And he sucked the whole time I had him.
My inclination.
I hate the idea of maybe trying to find those diamonds in the rough and you hold them for 3 years and then now I gotta get rid of them.
Well, that's part of the reason we'll have a taxi squad. You draft a rookie, and you can park them on your taxi squad so they don't count towards your active roster.
Explain that aspect.
Yeah, okay. Most dynasty leagues have an active roster, and then a taxi squad. Sleeper makes it super simple. It's your starters, your bench, and then your taxi squad. So basically, you can keep a guy on there we can set it up however we like. We do 3 years. 3 years seems to be a happy medium as far as giving this guy enough time to figure it out in the NFL or to get an opportunity, or like he's got a stud quarterback in front of him, gives him an opportunity to see the field, and then you can make an evaluation from there.
So maybe in this scenario, his 5-year clock would start when you activate him off your taxi squad, not when you drafted him.
I like that idea.
Okay.
That's a lot of sense. Because my inclination would typically be like, I don't want to hamstring us into a overly simplified league that's going to last for 15 years, and we're going to evolve as players, and
We're going to want to
6 years in be like, we could have made this so much more robust, and
because we were timid at first.
because we were a little gun shy at first. We were like, I don't want to do that. But
There's gonna be some growing pains right off the bat.
halfway through the first year, we're like, shit.
That's why I say I'm willing to learn how to do the hard stuff. And once you learn it, you got it. It's like not a big deal.
So going, like taxi squad to me, and knowing that now adds another element that's a half tick beyond just, okay, let's all pump the brakes. And maybe it's not full salary cap. It's not all that stuff. Although I like the idea of salary cap, and I like the idea of 4 years in, something clicks, and I'm like, okay, I know the secret now. I'm gonna continue to operate this way while everybody else gets, left in the dust, and that's not gonna happen. I'm not saying that's gonna happen.
We have it on duck here, remember?
Yeah, it's.
But does that make sense to everybody? Like, I don't want to.
You don't want
to be pulling back on the reins so hard now, just because we're not 100% certain we understand it. Let's allow ourselves to grow into this thing too.
And we can, I know this takes Sunday out of your day, but we can reconvene and do this again if we want to. We can create like our initial thought process on it now and write that out.
Yeah, and I think he had an excellent point. Jonathan, right?
Yeah.
Cool. That hybrid thing. Those usually, my experience playing, I've been playing since I was like Aaron was just like 12 years old illegally playing that men's leagues, But like a traditional keeper is something that I think easy, but it allows for some growth and you can change it up. But the one danger is this year, if you go into it, one of us, first year draft, and there'll be 2 guys next year. Gets a $1 Nakua and a $1 CJ Stroud. And if it's traditional, or the keeper's 10 years, guess what? That team's got those guys, 2 guys for 10 years. Ain't nothing a damn bit of, and we're just donating for $500 to that fund every year. If you do a salary or raise a gradual increase on that, those guys get more expensive.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, but if you got them for $1, they're 5 years from now, there's $5.
But you can't raise it by $1. It's got to be like, and L'Jarius Sneed's going from making $500,000, he's going to be making $25 million a year in 4 years.
That's where you can get a little bit more complex. Where I've heard of rules where said player is a top 10 running back for that year. And so they hold out.
They command our bet.
They hold out, and then you have to either pay them or something like that. So that's a rule we can propose in the future.
It needs to be like that complicated. I think there just needs to be something. There's going to be 2 of us. Everybody's a good fantasy football player. I'm positive. Everybody knows the game. No matter what the format is, everybody's smart, good fantasy player.
But see, that's also the other thing I think that.
But 2 of us are going to get lucky, and 2 of us are going to get unlucky, and 8 of us are going to be in the middle. That's just the way it's going to work out.
Yeah.
If your team sucks and if you've never drafted a bad team, hold your hand up. But if your team sucks, it's usually when you come out of the draft and you think your team's the best.
Sure.
Is when it ends up the worst.
Right.
But if you start off, you have somebody's got the worst draft, guaranteed, right? By the end of the year, we know who it is. You're stuck with that forever if you don't have the mechanism to change it. And that person's not going to want to keep ponying up $500.
And that's what we want. We want yearly optimism for everybody.
Right.
No hope. What's the
This would be my strategy, regardless if we're traditional or salary cap. And I did the same thing in our league. My team I'm not doing so hot this first year, had some big injuries. I know I can unload some contracts and get future draft picks, and I did that. So I set myself up for the future to have younger players on good contracts that can build me for the future. Same concept when you do a traditional dynasty league. I'm having a bad season. Maybe I want to trade off a veteran that maybe is on the bottom part of their deal, but they're having a good season. Trade them off to a contender team or a middle of the road team that wants to push to make the playoffs for future draft picks or younger players. So it's the nice thing that, like in redraft, you're like, my season's over. I'm 0-8 or I'm 1-7 or I'm 2-6, and you're like, that was fun, but I'm just going to kick the can down the road and maybe next year. In Dynasty, I might get the first pick. So maybe I can trade some players, make my team a little bit worse to get future draft capital. So I'm excited for the next year. And at the end of the day, you're rooting to lose, but you still want to put a competitive team. That's why like the max points for thing kind of fixes that. So that's the thought process.
I think that's good. And then I think the mechanism, so going for it, you're going to get your draft picks. We're contending, right?
Right.
And I said, Dave, you're not really contending. I'm going to throw you a $1 Trey Lance, a $1 Roshan Johnson. You're going to give me your terrible Jonathan Taylor contract. Right. And then I go to you and I said, you want Puka Nacua for $1? You can have him for $1. I'm going to take Kelsey. And I'll take Aaron Rodgers, that's healthy, magically. And then you're going to go, what the fuck? I was in second place running head-to-head. We're in week 10, and this guy just took over the league. And I added basically doubled the value of my roster. And now you got to go to who's ever left. These guys are on the bottom. You're kind of in the middle. You're going to be fucking hating me and hating the league. Unless there's a mechanism in place that says, hey.
I'll tell you, Ray won our league this last season. He didn't make any big moves to get there.
Trying to blow up my team.
Yeah, he was middle of the road halfway through the year and then just put it together, but you didn't make any moves to do it. I made 2 big moves. I acquired CeeDee Lamb and I acquired Justin Herbert. Got rid of my first round pick, got rid of my second round pick for the next year, and it's like rookie picks. Got rid of Jahmyr Gibbs, got rid of DK Metcalf. So I was pushing chips in and being like, this is my year. Lost in the second round of the playoffs or first round of the playoffs, and that's how it goes, right? There's different ways to do it, and Ray's salary cap's looking fine. I could have looked better. I would love to still have my first round pick and not have Justin Herbert, but it is what it is. There's different ways to think about it, different ways to do it. So the biggest thing for everyone to figure out, and I know we've been on this topic for probably about a half an hour. Obviously, it's probably the biggest part of the deal is, are you okay with having a guy forever or having this team have a guy forever? In theory, obviously there's trades that can potentially happen. Or do you want some sort of roster turnover? If we do the roster turnover route, we'll have maybe a rookie draft and a veteran draft. If we do a traditional dynasty league, we'll just have a rookie draft. That's it, because there's no veterans to pick from.
Based off this what we've talked about now, I'm leaning towards what you're like doing, the 5-year deal.
Keeper style.
Kinda.
Yeah, that's.
A 3-year taxi and a 5-year rostered.
I'll tell you, for ease, Sleeper says when you acquire a player. And maybe we could do a franchise tag too. That way there's one guy I really want to have on my roster, and it just sucks that you're going to have to get rid of him. And how are we going to handle trades? Is if I have a player that's been on the 3rd contract and I trade him away, does it reset the clock? Or does it not?
Or that could just be part of the value structure of a trade then, is this player is doing really well, but he only has 1 year left on the contract, but this player has 3 years, he might not be as good, but that's more valuable, like set up a salary cap of the situation.
But that turns into, it's a whole new trade bait because you're going to have a pool of players that are 1 year left guys.
Alternative currency, basically.
Correct. That where you're like, I can't keep them, I might as well trade them.
Yeah, and depending, so the 4-year is the standard, and the 5th year is the franchise year. That's how a contract works.
First one.
And then you'd look at, if you want to franchise, and you could franchise one player a 5th year. if we're emulating it, because
If we're going to emulate it, it's salary cap.
turnover. What happens in the league is that a player's production gets up to where you can't retain him even under contract at a certain level of pay for too long. They hold out. They just quit playing. Or you can get to that through that 5th year if they follow their contract and play, and then they're going to hit the market and people are going to pay up, and you're going to have to, you could pay up and keep them on your team, or you could redo their contract, which means bring their pay up in line with other players of similar production. We don't really have that aspect, so it's just like getting them back into the pool, bid them up again if you want to put them back on your team. Just like you do in the league. Pay up on your man then. But it resets the market on those players. If you're getting them in a trade, I don't know, whatever's easier is probably better. You've got a clock for whenever you acquire a player versus they have their original clock.
I think they should probably keep their original contract. But here's the thing, though. Do we want to do contract length or do we want to do traditional? Do we want to just vote on it? As far as who's in the room today? Because if we have a majority, then we'll probably lead that way. If we don't, maybe we can table it and take it offline.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm okay doing it traditional as long as there's like mechanisms on the keepers. As long as we're not like 20 players
What
for the
forces you to drop
eternity.
somebody?
I'm okay. Because honestly, I'm not going to be around doing Excel spreadsheets. It's probably going to be, I'm guessing, this gentleman over here.
Well, Ray, I don't know. It'd probably be me.
Or if...
Unless someone else wants to, or we could all just.
I don't know how tedious that is. I think Andrew brought that up earlier. I don't know how much work I want to throw on y'all's shoulders because it's not going to be me doing it.
If we do a contract length, I don't think there would be a spreadsheet. And the reason why is if we draft through sleeper, which it sounds like we will, you can go into the notes and see when that player was drafted. So if it was 2021, we know that player's contract is the last year is 2026. 2027, they become a free agency. It does take some maintenance on the year-to-year off-season aspect, like when's our clock turnover.
Maybe for that kind of thing, though, it's like we can have some kind of public sheet where it's everybody's roster. And so if there's a change, we
You're
all see it happen.
drafted or you're signed.
Yeah,
basically.
whenever the off season happens, where we'd obviously have a big session where you go through, you change over the contract, everything's public, everything's being able to be seen. But
That probably wouldn't be terribly hard, because you said you can pull it directly from sleeper.
like 12 Excel sheets with contract
And the
players.
contract is either going to be just like a number 1, 2, 3, 4, or maybe 5,
Right.
or it's going to be a number plus a dollar amount, depending upon what you do. So.
And as long as it's all transparent.
Anything, probably more than that is too.
Yeah, and you can pin it to the chat in sleeper, so it's easy to pull. That's how we do it in ours.
Oh yeah, something like every year we could just reset. I'll repost the contracts.
Yeah, you don't even have to do that. It'll be pinned if it's a live Excel spreadsheet or Google Sheets or whatever. It's a live document, so whenever you only have to edit it once a year.
So should we just put that to the table now, though? Is like figure out how we want it: salary, keeper, traditional.
Yeah, I think
correct.
so.
Let's,
And then, and again, this is just our preliminary structure.
Yeah, I honestly think if we get a majority on one, then we'll probably go that direction. If we don't, we need to table it with the people who aren't here and figure that out. Because at the end of the day, it should be majority rules, right? Who wants a traditional?
Can we just, real quick, let's define what if there are 3 options.
Traditional is keep forever. Salary cap is we're doing the big Excel spreadsheet that's updated either yearly or daily during the season or weekly or whatever. That's the third dimension, a little bit more complicated. Or do we do set contract length?
keeper stuff.
Like a keeper, a contract year keeper.
Personally, I feel like the keeper thing is just half-assing both sides. I'd rather whole ass one way or the other, personally. Because if we're doing a keeper for 5 years, then every 5 years we're just going to be drafting the same players until we're like 9 years in.
Well, I think with the idea is with the taxi squad, you're literally looking at 8 years potentially. So you really have Puka Nakua right now. You're looking at 2031, 2032. Like, is he going to turn into anything? I know it wouldn't be, but that's...
It's 5 years of usability.
and 10 touchdowns right now, you're getting 7,500 yards and 50 touchdowns over the course of the next.
Well, you're only going to have them for 5 though, because you can. As soon as you activate, that clock starts.
Over the next 5 years, and you start the clock now on having 5 years to find that next guy, or to make trades for the next guy.
And that's what your taxi squad is. Your
Taxi squad, developmental squad. It's called. Sleeper calls it taxi squad.
Allowing you to be a little more aggressive and.
But I will note they do count towards your max points for. So if they're balling on your, you can activate them at any time during the season. Yeah. Yeah, so it's like college football, like a red shirt. Like if that player goes and plays, you can't swap out. Can't redshirt him again.
You can't swap out the guy you want to switch with. You have to dump that guy.
You have to stay under your. If we have 20 spots, you activate a guy. You got to cut a guy.
I'm backtracking right now. I'm getting us probably further away from this vote. But is there, like there is in MLB, is there a date during the season where you have, if you're activated before this date, now you're gonna accumulate that 1 year of service time, or if you like activate a guy in week 16?
I think it counts. I think it, for the ease of the insanity that we're getting into, is as soon as that player is activated, that should count towards that season.
Even if it's day 364.
If you put that player in the championship game, which, like, if you're in there and you need them, do it.
I don't disagree. I just like.
Yeah, it's good clarification.
Now we're maybe talking 9 years instead of 8, or like that somebody could potentially just be sitting around on your roster.
There's a little bit of maintenance if we go that route too. Salary cap, like traditional is the easiest for commissioner. Sleeper will handle everything.
My only question, just for all three. So the first year is like auction draft, right? Everybody wants an auction draft. But subsequent years, does it turn into a stake?
So if we do traditional, it's a rookie linear, similar to the way the NFL does it.
Like snake.
Like just in inverse.
No, not snake, just linear. So it's you have the worst team.
Linear, not snake.
Linear, yeah. You have the worst team. You have the 101, the 201, the 301, the 401. You have the first pick in every round.
You gotta live with that shit forever.
So it's not necessarily.
That's the pain, though. That's part of the beauty.
And a salary cap one, you would have space. So
It would be 2 different drafts. There's a rookie draft, and we assigned values.
There's
my wife.
Hello.
I was going to steal a pizza.
Please, just take one. Yeah.
Hi, everybody.
How are you? Love you.
and then a keeper, like a hybrid.
So there's a rookie draft with assigned values because we got to give those players contracts if we go the salary cap route.
But keeper, like we're throwing back maybe Mike Evans. Where does Mike Evans go? He's not a rookie.
So if
there would be a veteran.
Yeah. Traditional rookie draft only, salary cap, and we'll call it a contract league. Rookie and veteran draft separate because you want the worst teams to get better. For the rookie draft, it's linear to make sure those teams can get better.
For the veteran.
And that's why if you're having a bad season, hey, it's going to be okay. You're going to get the first pick or the second pick in the next year's draft.
The rookie draft is always a snake.
It's always linear. Same the way the NFL does it.
All right, let's just do this. Let's go to each person and you tell us what you want to do and then we'll vote on it.
Cool.
Jonathan Van Sickle, what do you?
I'm like with David too. I feel a lot of pull towards traditional and the salary cap. I also agree with. I think you said it, or you said it. Like I'm willing to adapt as well. I want to do whatever is the most fun for the group and whatever. I think we have a good enough squad. We can go any of these routes, and we're gonna have turnover, maybe through trades, through salary caps, or anything like that. The reason I was looking at the hybrid so much is because I feel like that gives us ease as well as a forced turnover. I don't know what the right answer is at all on any of these things, but I think all of them present really unique options, and I think either way with this group, we'll be able to keep things moving. I know with me, if I have a bad team, I'm going to be calling all you motherfuckers. I'm going to be barking up your tree. These things happen. Maybe salary cap or trading picks because it looks like that's the two ways that it goes. Right. So I really don't know too much about this, but that's how I feel, and I'm going to trust on you guys to lead us in the right direction here with that. No vote? No, I definitely have a vote.
Politicians answer.
I think the thing I'm least comfortable with is the salary cap because it adds a whole third aspect to it.
Right.
But that being said, if you guys with experience in the room think that's the best way to go, I'm totally along for the ride.
For me, I'll just jump in. I'm similar to that, and obviously I'm new, and I don't want to make the bad decision where we have to live with it for the rest of our career here. Like what you said, it seems daunting at first, and we don't want to dip our toes into it, but we want to have maybe the best experience long term. When we started doing snake drafts, and now we're doing auction drafts in Spotlight, and we're never probably going to go back to snake drafts because we're that more advanced now, and it's more fun to do auction. We want to.
JC Watts was a snake draft next year. I don't know.
I understand.
I fucking hated that draft.
But that's how, yeah, exactly.
And then, like, if it's on me, to be honest, just skip me. I'm gonna do whatever. I don't care. So.
Okay.
My gut instinct is to add layers of complexity and figure it out. I can fully understand why we would back off of that into something that was more of a hybrid, and I think that we would all learn nuance in that system as well. But if I were ranking them, I would go salary cap, then hybrid, then traditional.
So that the only thing is, like you said, hey, we'll tweak something in the future. It's hard to do that.
No, I don't mean tweak something.
Okay.
We'll all learn
Sure.
to play
Yeah,
within
we'll
the
figure it
rule
out.
system that we set up.
Yeah.
Right? And we'll all, as we go, which is like we're creating a league. We're creating the product that we want to interact with, and we'll create it and learn how to operate within it. And some of us, like, what I don't want to do is if we go super complicated and some of us understand that complexity year one and some of us are going to take 2 years to get into it.
Right.
Have we created a system where it's going to be not impossible but very difficult to catch up?
So the salary cap thing, it's easier to recover in salary cap. Because at the end of the day, you can sign guys to shorter contracts, and there's always going to be a veteran pool.
Okay, then I do have one quick question. I apologize. You said sign him to a contract.
Correct.
So, like, say like first year Patrick Mahomes was available, right? I got him for $8. Okay, fucking amazing. That at the end of that year I signed him a contract, or right then I signed him a contract?
So the way that we do it is we have our veteran draft, and then you have a week to figure out how many years you want to put on that contract. So if you do $8,
At that time, I probably would have only said a year, right? So I'd have been fucked.
not at the draft.
Or he just goes back to no, because that's the only the contract part is the only thing that actually confuses me.
Yeah,
Like I said,
I can explain that.
I did not care.
We do the draft, and it's just like every other auction draft you've ever done, and then you're done. And then for the week after that, you say, okay, what contract length do you want to give to that player? So Patrick Mahomes, in your example, for $8.
With nothing to do with my fab or my salary, nothing. It's just
You haven't overspent for that year, right? Because the cap is what the cap was for the draft. You spent $8 on Patrick Mahomes, and you say, okay, how long do I want this player for? Do I feel like it's a good contract? Those are the things you need to consider. If it's a big contract, maybe you put him on a shorter deal. The big contracts that I did, 1 year, 2 year, I think 1 year, and then all the other guys 2, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. 5 years was the max. But you can re-sign players the way that we have it set up. So like some players are going to be on my team for a while. I got Michael Pittman for $18 out of $1,000. That's a $1 contract in a $200 salary cap or a auction league. So I'm going to probably have him for a while.
I'll say, and you can skip when it comes to me because I had the same order as Andrew. But I was going to say I was going to vote for a simplified salary cap. The way or we've done dynasty, you draft a player for $10. Patrick Mahomes, rookie, $10. Next year he's 15. The next year he's 25. The next year he's 40. So that you don't have to worry about contract length and 4 years or extension or franchise tags. He's just going to take a bigger chunk of your salary cap, just like in football. And you're going to just Mike Trout becomes $80. It doesn't matter. He's going to go back in the pool. So you
can keep a player as long as you want. It's just you got to be able to afford him.
You just keep a player for 15 years, but eventually he's going to cost $120. So it's not going to be.
So the complexity of the other thing is that his value is increasing at a greater rate than the salary cap. So if you get a guy for $1, next year he's $6. His salary has quintupled in a year. right? Which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you get down to the end of your roster, it's
Yeah, it's gonna
10
make
bucks
those
for-
mid,
10
those
bucks for a
mid-tier
second.
guys that we buy Travis Kelce for $30. It's gonna he's aging and you might not be able to keep him.
in the other scenario,
Yeah.
because the flip side of that is you get somebody for $70.
Sure.
Next year he's only 75.
Yeah.
Fucking great. Like
Justin Jefferson.
in the other scenario,
Yeah.
like it's growing into an outsized portion of your salary cap at a consistent rate. So you could keep that guy for 10 years, but in 10 years he's going to take up 30% of your salary cap or whatever it is. I don't know. I'm not going to be able to do the math, but
So here's a quick question that I just came to me because we're talking a lot about Patrick Mahomes, these types of quarterbacks that can obviously like change a roster forever. And I think most dynasty leagues I've looked at is a super flex situation. I think that alone can really help as far as valuing and devaluing some of those elite quarterbacks. Is this going to be a super flex league, or are we going to keep it with a small, normal redraft roster? Because I think that also changes the value and the way you have to look at these contracts and things. Because
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it just changes the economics of the league. So if we do a super flex, I think we should.
I think that makes it more fair because then you can have a Patrick Mahomes, sure, but do you have a good mid-tier to pair with him, or do you have a Jared Goff or something like that, two of those guys? Like, I don't know.
I will tell you, like on contract length, if you draft a rookie quarterback, most rookie quarterbacks don't do what C.J. Stroud did, right? Actually, I think he had a historic season, if I recall correctly. You got to wait.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Because Patrick Mahomes didn't play as a rookie.
That's right. Or Jordan Love. He didn't start for 4 years.
Exactly. Ooh, this is a tough call, man. There's so many things to think about.
There is, and I have it to be honest, I could just go through everything, and then you guys can try to dissolve. This is what I did for my league. I wrote the Constitution. There's a lot of shit to think about, a lot, and it gets overwhelming. We've been talking about the same topic for an hour.
Yeah. We're not gonna hit everything today.
No, but what I could do is write a rough draft and say, what do we think? But I do think we need to figure out traditional salary cap contracts. Go ahead.
You raised your hand for a traditional league, and I don't think we've really heard about any of the sides or benefits for that, but that's what you're leaning towards more? Like, why?
I just like the idea of keeping a player.
Much about what a traditional league can offer.
Yeah, at the end of the day, okay, you make that good draft pick for the rookie or in the veteran draft or whatever. I just like the idea of keeping that player forever.
You want to trade?
Unless I want to trade them. Which it's all about how you want to play and do that.
I think the reason we're timid about that is because a lot of us, that's out of our comfort zone where a lot of people don't make trades. Like I traditionally don't make a lot of trades. Brock, I don't think you trade very much, do you?
If I do, they're fucking massive trades. Like
You're right. That's right.
I'm not trading like a player that I'm counting on for 7 points a week. You know what I mean? I make
Increment.
Yeah.
this is going to be a 45 point.
I want the
fucking
league acquiring
murdering
Jonathan
this.
Taylor from Aaron.
You know what I mean? That's
Do or die.
Otherwise, it's not fun for me. There's no gamble.
So with the dynasty aspect, it's different because there's future value involved. Where in redraft, it's not. I will tell you, we're all going to probably still do redraft in some form or fashion. There's different aspects of redraft that you're not going to be able to emulate in dynasty, and vice versa. And that's why I do both, because I have my redraft. Hey, hoping I have a good draft, hope I pick up the right players and have a good season. But in the redraft, it's the other thing. Is if I have a bad season, that sucks. But in Dynasty, it's I have future value here that I can take advantage of. So the traditional route, I've always just wanted to try it.
Yeah.
And I know that's not a very good selling point. And I'm already in salary cap. But to be honest, I love salary cap. I would 100% do it again.
I would make the argument for the hybrid as the closest to emulating the NFL because there is that mechanism for getting that player out in the market after 5 years.
In the salary cap, you don't.
Because even if you draft Patrick Mahomes for $12, he's going to be worth giving him an extension of his contract every year until he retires.
So I guess the point is,
the Chiefs are going to have Mahomes his whole career.
I guess the point is after
Sacrilegious.
7 years or 5 years, like you could keep Patrick Mahomes. You're just
You
gonna
pay
have
up
to
again at the draft.
pay
for him.
market value
just
for
like
him.
in the market, just
Right.
like when we rework his deal next time.
Exactly.
That's why.
It's going to go from a $500 million deal to a
That's why.
$700 million deal.
That's why Chiefs don't have any more receivers anymore because we had to pay him.
Yeah.
But he's so special. He doesn't need top tier receivers.
What'd you call it?
In the real world. Sorry.
It's all salary cap manipulation at the end of the day. They just shift dollars around. And it's like the Saints every year. They're like, oh, they're over the cap. They somehow figure it out.
If we were only doing it 4 years or 5 years, and you get Mahomes, he's got to go out after 4 or 5 years. He's going. You're not doing an auction. You're not playing with salary cap. So he's just going into a veteran draft that's a snake draft. So somebody's gonna get a snake draft Mahomes or a snake draft.
Is there?
I don't know that I would do it. I would still apply an auction to the veteran draft.
I think that's.
I wouldn't do a snake on
And
that.
that's
what I
There'd still be an auction
But it's-
because it's the marketplace what people will pay up.
It's just like, how do we do that? Like
We
the
have
sleep,
to-
the sleeper, the
We
they
have
can.
time to look at
I think
our
would we
budget
need a
or
separate
whatever.
rookie
Like,
draft for them?
how big
Could they
should the
just be
budget
in the auction
be?
like
Maybe is
everybody
it
else?
average per number of heads available or possible?
That's something we can.
If we do rookies and veterans together,
Yeah.
then there's no draft picks to acquire. You want bad teams to get better. I think no matter what, there's some rookie draft in some form or fashion.
I think.
I like the idea of
But
snake veteran auction. That's
right.
I think the hybrid with the auctions.
It works well for.
with the auction veteran.
With the auction veteran.
Yeah, that's what I'm planning that way. With the hybrid, with the auction veteran draft, and we just have to figure out how to do an auction veteran draft.
Who wants to do the hybrid?
I think I do.
I think so.
I'm not raising my hand, but let it be known that it is a very close second option for me.
What do you want?
I'm
Salary cap?
Salary cap, but it's by a fucking razor thin.
I'm down for that too. That sounds fun and interesting.
It just sounds so complicated.
But it's gonna be.
I don't want another job.
What are you thinking?
Especially not here.
And I love being in the weeds with this
I have so many spreadsheets in my life, and this whole salary cap's going to revolve around how well you work the spreadsheet.
I mean, I really just.
It'll revolve around.
I like the hybrid idea.
So I have a question. If we do the hybrid, would we be able to implement some sort of a system where if there's a guy that we really want after that 5 years, we could give up like a
Pay a
first
premium.
round rookie draft pick
Yeah.
to keep that guy for another 5 years?
Trade a rookie pick for somebody's vet or something, or what?
Oh, like you forfeit your first round pick to.
It's like forfeit my first.
So basically, your pick.
Cap money from somebody else or something, maybe.
Or would we only want it to be where they re-enter the auction for the? Because I'm just a little hesitant about that hybrid thing because for this like 7-8 years it's going to be the same players going back in the pool, so we're just going to have the same draft 5 years from now.
Oh, this will turn a lot.
But like, if you had Josh Allen and he was on an expiring contract, that'd be an automatic, right? As a first round pick for 1 year,
To keep him
worth
for how many? For what?
that guy for 1 more year.
For 1 more year?
I'm just trying to gauge whether or not there's relative or equal value there.
Just like the NFL, you overvalue rookies.
Yeah.
You keep thinking that fucking. How many number one picks are total busts?
Yeah,
A lot.
You overvalue
Almost as many as aren't.
Oh yeah.
And that's the
potential
thing.
versus
So like
Correct.
the build through the draft sounds great, except for it doesn't work half the time. Look at Houston's building through the draft. Maybe finally now they got a quarterback, right? They've been building through the draft for 20 years. You know,
That's what's fascinating about that side. I see the appeal in that side as well. I see appeal in all of these systems.
I know exactly.
For me, that like, okay, you suck. Well,
Is a
draft in the next 3 years.
Is a rookie draft?
And we'll never know. We'll never know how that other system would have gone.
I see all these as being like, damn, that's bad.
As annoying as it is to keep going over and over again, we gotta.
We gotta calm it down.
Yeah, we gotta make a decision and.
Just so I'm understanding everybody correctly, when we're saying hybrid, is it the contract length thing? Okay.
Yes.
contract with the rookie draft and the auction on the vets.
I like that.
And then so with the contract.
And then on the contracts, you want to do 4, and one player can go to a 5th year?
Well, I was just
or
gonna ask, do you maybe have like different assigned contract links that you can
keep their current NFL contract length.
have a mix?
Oh yeah.
And one player you put on a 2-year, one player you put on a 5-year. I don't know, because I agree with David as well. Because then in 5 years, all these players just fall off our rosters.
And it happens at the same time for the entire league.
That's a fun draft party, though.
Year 5.
So
It's a fun draft year. It's like the Jubilee. Hey, you don't have to suck next year. Maybe you can start over.
Is the suggestion that I'm hearing?
It's like the harvest.
Year 1, you have 20 roster spots, and you have
Plus you gotta lose
an allocation of 7 1 years and 3 2 years and 3 and
I'm thinking we really should just do salary cap.
Yeah.
Because it gets the roster turnover that people want. I know it's an Excel spreadsheet complexity thing, but at the end of the day, you only really have to figure out the salary cap twice a year, maybe. Right, March 1st, we have our year turns over, so anybody we want to cut, we need to cut.
Here's my question as a commissioner: could it be an organic thing that everyone's going to be able to see it? But I might need some help for that first year or two just to get used to that system.
The good news is Ray already has the template for it.
And really the only thing you need to do during the season is add the players that get on every waiver run.
Which we don't have to do it that way. We can keep Fab separate, so there's no thing there. Which we might have to do that in our league, if you want. Yeah, so there's salary cap wise, there's 3 things to think about. And I will tell you, it's extremely easy to rebuild. I'll give you an example. One guy in our league had a bad year last year, had the first pick. He set all of his contracts to 1 year, that last year. His roster completely turned over, but all of these veterans came in that he could pick from. He picked Travis Kelce, Christian McCaffrey. He had a great year this year. I think he finished 3rd or 4th out of 14. Or 2nd. He finished 2nd, didn't he?
He was at the top for the most.
Yeah.
That's the value, I think.
That is the value. You get the turnover. You can build different ways. You don't have to get all these awesome rookie contracts and build it that way. You can also say, okay, I'm just going to sign some higher contract guys and just put them on the roster for 1 year and just see how it goes. Obviously, a lot changes in football.
And so when you get the player, you said you have like 1 week to decide how many years you're going to give that player. Correct.
For every year for the veteran draft.
At the veteran draft.
Yeah. So like the initial one, we'll have to set all of our contracts. For year 2, whoever's not under, we're going to have another veteran draft. You'll have to assign all those contracts.
So I'm going to have to go to Jonathan. Hey man, I'm looking at your draft here. You got those numbers? You got how many years you got?
Yeah, all I do, I send out an email to everybody, say, hey, your contracts are due in a week. Please get them over to me.
Okay.
And then some people are like, hey, where's it at?
5 next to every name on their roster. Perfect.
Yeah, and Ray already has it built out.
Perfect. Okay, that's for me. I'm down for that. And I think that's. What do you think? Do you like that?
I just have no idea what that looks like.
The toughest thing is
I mean,
figuring
that's
out
something where
which
it's
one
okay.
fits.
Let's look at the spreadsheet. How does this work?
Sorry to interrupt.
No, go ahead.
The toughest thing is to figure out if you have enough free agent or enough of your budget to trade for Travis Kelce.
Because your trade values and that helps keep the league competitive.
Redraft. So what is that? Everybody who they cut, who they couldn't afford?
Yeah, every contract that is expiring, any guy who's on a 1-year contract can't re-sign him during the year. So he's automatically going into the pool for next year. So like this upcoming draft, this is year 4 for us. We had plenty of guys on 3-year contracts or like we'll sign last year to a 1-year contract. We have a pretty heavy veteran pool coming in this year. There's plenty of players to pick from in the veteran draft. We're still gonna have our rookie draft June 1st, and it's a offline slow draft. Like we all have time and family and work and all this other stuff going on. So it's not a big time suck. We just do 24 hours per pick. There's 3 rounds. We're done in a week. The rookie draft, I was like, I'm not trying to get 14 guys together to figure this out. I'm just like, we're going to do this offline. It's going to be a linear draft. You have 24 hours per pick. And it gives time to let people trade too, so there's some fun parts about it.
I mean, hard to organize 5 drafts.
But we'll still have a veteran draft. It still takes time. If we do 20 roster spots or however, we can mirror it the exact same way and just have like different scoring. I have the whole thing typed up and ready to go. I will note there's some things I do want to add to it.
Yeah. And it's just new. It's different, and it's something that's it's nervous. We want to make the right decisions for everybody. We want to have people excited every year, and we don't want it to be confusing. And people get, oh, why did I join this? It's too complicated. Or you have a family, and you have a business, and you got things going on. You don't want to overcomplicate yourself. And this is supposed to balance your life.
Really fucking.
So do we like the idea of a salary cap?
I mean, is everybody comfortable re-voting again? I think everybody knows. So we just go with the majority.
Looks like the general consensus is the salary is going to be a little too complex for what a lot of people are wanting to do.
And to keep everyone, all 12 teams, wanting to keep playing, and I think. I like the idea of a salary cap, but we want some simplicity in it and make it approachable for everybody as well.
That's part of the reason why I wanted to do the traditional part of it. Is just because there's no complexity to it.
So in a traditional, though, how do you solve the? Because my only thing I told myself before I come here, I don't want to play in a league where you keep your players forever.
Okay, that's a traditional salary cap and the hybrid, as we're calling it.
I don't mind if you could keep a player or some players forever, but not all the players. So like, how do you create a?
I like the idea of keeping players on contracts where every year you have 1 5-year contract you can give out, 3 4-year.
There's an equation to do that, and it's a max contract length number. Instead of saying I can only assign one guy a 5, you have
25 years on.
You can have 2 3s. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, so you can have 25 years of contracts. However you want to divvy it up for your players, that's the way you do it.
I like that. I think that's better.
What's up?
1 25-year contract.
Yeah, 1 25-year contract. Sure.
I like that idea.
I'd have to probably do some research on that, on what that number looks like.
Okay, I'm down for that. I like it.
Yeah, like where you can hand out the contract years.
Yeah.
That'll keep the veteran pool from all jumping at the same time.
Yeah. Let's do that. Or that's my vote. I'm not saying what we should do, but
I fully understand how that works year one. I'm a little less clear on how that works.
You'd just be, I think what the proposition is, you'd be just assign X amount of contract years that you're able to divvy up however you would like amongst your roster.
So if I have Patrick Mahomes and I sign him to a 5-year contract, like,
No, what
can I just next year just add a year to it, like as a 1 year, as part of my 1 year?
For 5 years.
No, I think you can cut anybody at any time. There's no ramifications for not keeping a player. So like,
It makes sense if
This
you
would
have
just be
some
more like
contract
yearly
years. If you cut somebody,
Yeah,
it
I think
cuts the
that's
contract
great.
years.
I think that's
It
great.
just wasn't available to hand out to
But-
somebody else.
we do that. Is there still a salary cap that we have to add?
No.
Essentially,
There's
use
contract
years.
length.
Contract is your budget.
number of
Contract years is
contracts.
your budget.
The contract length is the budget.
Yeah, your total team contract years are your budget, basically. Right? You got this many, you dump a guy, you freed up those years, you sign a guy, you got how many years you can give that guy, right?
And it changes each year. So if you want to give up you got one guy at 3 that's gone or injured or whatever, one at 5, you can just cut those guys and add those to your contract years. I think that makes it
I think that's
simple.
Yeah.
It does, it emulates it.
That definitely cuts down on the confusion.
Just one more column in your
Are we going around the room again here?
budget.
And if we do, can I just say, like, when we do, let's not kowtow to what we think other people, like, just say what you think is the best thing.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
Or
context.
2 best things, or whatever, in any order, and let's not try to relate it to everybody else in the room. Let's, like, because I think it's important that we get a real feel for what's going on in the room, rather than just being this like fluid, amorphous fucking feeling. Like, let's just see what everybody is actually thinking. Fluid, amorphous fucking feeling. Let's just see what everybody is actually thinking.
After that conversation, I'm down for that. I think, and I'm gonna be a little selfish because
What
I
is that?
the contract,
Hybrid,
the
contract
Years.
hybrid thing.
Yeah.
With a total allocation of contract
We'll have
years to be
figure out the
divvied up.
number of years,
Okay.
but-
All right. Okay.
Based on your roster.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
I
'cause
think
we-
that's
I'll do
probably
the hybrid with
Okay.
contract years.
yeah.
What are your thoughts?
I'm hybrid contract years, 2
Okay.
salary cap, 3 traditional.
Okay.
And we would still have a veteran auction each year, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, I like that idea too. The hybrid contract years thing.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. feel like it sounds cool. I also like the idea of letting us grow into a salary cap, but it sounds like that's going to be a real pain in the ass. And it's going to maybe take over some of our lives, which also sucks.
We can bite that bullet 2 years, 3 years down the road, though, once we get a hang of it. You never know.
It's hard to do though.
Yeah.
You just blow up and
So
start over.
kids, but it's,
What are your thoughts?
I still stand where I stand. I think hybrid
Okay.
seems like a good choice.
Was that with the contracts?
Yeah, but
Roxanne?
in between the two, the happy medium.
My thoughts are almost entirely in line with him. Like, my preference would be salary cap that we could all learn and grow into. My second, and by a really close margin, would be what seems to be the consensus, which is this hybrid thing.
Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I know you are the expert, and no, I would like to grow into expanding it as we go on. And I know that what we decide now is the structure for the whole history of the league. And someone's going to get screwed over if we decided to change something up. And if someone's got a sweet deal going.
Yeah. So if we do the contract length hybrid, is what we're calling it, and we say down the road 3 years, whatever, and we say, hey, we'd love to just switch this thing to salary cap. In my opinion, it would have to be unanimous. Like, everyone has to agree. Otherwise, it's not going to work because somebody's going to have a contract or whatever it may look like that's not as favorable, or a team that's not as favorable, whatever it may look like, and it's just going to be more complicated to make that move.
Yeah, I know. That's why it's so pressing to make the right call now. But our minds are gonna change in 2 years on everything. And
from my perspective, I just don't want to go into year one thinking I have it all figured out, because that's part of the excitement of
It's going to
doing
change
something
a lot.
that
just like even a redraft changes a lot.
like I said, and like
we're all going to be able to adapt. We're all smart fantasy players. Like, we're all
regardless
gonna be able
of
to
which
find ways to operate in this
version,
system.
we're gonna understand the nuance of it better 3 years from now than we do now, and we'll find things to get ourselves excited about down the line.
yeah,
My preference is more layers of complexity, not less.
because when you really get excited and get into the fantasy football, then you really want to, okay, let's go a little deeper into it. And
But it seems like in the
hard
room,
to change. If you know what you paid, you know how many years were on your guy. I don't see that being that hard to change into a salary cap if you decided you really want. You'd have to start like a new cap, but you could translate what you paid because you auctioned for these people, you budgeted your years. Those are elements of a salary cap. You know what I mean?
Or could it be?
We could then
eras
focus
of
just on
this
how to
thing
convert that. If
that
we
may
decide
have
we really want to convert.
may create more natural like places.
the whole concept of what we were going to do here with the dynasty, where anything I do, I like to do a little more interesting than just the classical way. Peradigm is an era-based thing. So whoever wins, we're all going to pay 500, and then maybe 25 of that 500 or 50 of that 500 goes into a special pot. And the team that wins 3 championships, the first one to win 3 championships, gets that pot, and they basically win that era, which would be the beta era. Now we could set it up to where, hey, this beta era,
Reset the era.
the beta era could be the hybrid contract era. It's going to be forever until we get to the next era. But then in the next era, we can bump it up to
If somebody's got
salary
3
cap.
championships,
And we'd have X amount of years to really make sure everybody felt comfortable with that transition, or to just say, we're good with where we're at.
Because it sounds like Ray, David, me, we've all played dynasty leagues, for a long time, various things, and he'd rather go traditional, experiencing a salary cap. But there's definitely positives.
I mean, don't get me wrong.
And I'm now on the opposite side. I'd rather go salary cap to the fucking moon.
Sure.
But it's more complicated. So we both played within the same, but we're playing the same way right now, both of us. But we have very different experiences. So it's likely that all of us are going to, in a couple of years, have different experiences with what we're doing and want to make adjustments.
So one thing I'd like to say about the hybrid situation is I'm afraid it might devalue trading just a little bit, because like maybe you're a little bit hesitant to push your chips all in to win this year, because if I give up a first round draft pick for a player who's on their last year of their contract or whatever, then I'm going to be pissed when I don't win the championship. Whereas I do like the idea of the traditional, like really valuing doing a lot of trades.
I agree with that. I think
think that's one of my biggest fears.
Are you trading the cap
salary
years?
Cap, is that
Which
the
we can
salary
figure
cap
out,
it gets you further away from like the trading and future assets as valuable. I don't think they're as valuable. I know they still are, but I agree with that.
Because that's one thing I love about the idea of a dynasty is like really going after the trades. Because I don't do that in like traditional draft.
Yeah, that's
I really like that.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point of doing this, is just get us all out of our comfort zone and do something totally
But
different.
either way, I'm going to be super stoked either way that we go. I'm super happy with it. The hybrid sounds dope to me too. I'm just a little bit worried about how that's going to affect our willingness to trade. Or at least mine personally.
I will say my experience with the salary cap is that it increased the trades because you have an incentive. If you're sitting there at $200 budget, rather than just coast through the year, you have an incentive to go down in your budget to your floor. So you have more dollars to spend at next year's auction. Whereas the teams at the top have an incentive to win now and
push
go
that
and go
gap.
up higher because if you don't, he's going to. And so it helps push each other, set them on both sides to kind of go for it.
I feel like in Dynasty, whatever format we'd pick, it'll probably be similar, where teams will push.
There'd be more trading because you've got how many people? 25 people on your roster. You got no choice but to trade, my brother.
Yeah.
That's it.
Because there's nothing on
There's
the line.
nothing.
Yeah.
It's desolation. If you go to just
And if really,
18 team rosters and take 12 more people off the wires, it's like
I just think it's hard to find 12 people who are all trade hungry like that.
Yeah.
It's hard to find that. Some people are gonna love that, and some people are gonna hate that.
Trade when my team gets a lot better, and I think the other team's a lot worse. Like if I think they're
I know.
better,
Exactly. I always feel like I'm getting screwed all the time.
Sometimes I feel like I'm running away with it.
Very static in
Right. Exactly.
See, we both
I am more comfortable
That's the only way it works.
the less trades are
But there's
happening.
nothing out
But
there.
that's not the fucking point of me doing this. Is to like do something that's so similar to what I'm already doing.
Right.
Is to get into a totally new experience.
Right.
Right. It is to expand what I've already been doing, not to
Yeah.
replicate it.
That's why I feel strongly about traditional.
I'm generally not a trading guy, and I'm excited to
I'm willing to become
learn
one.
To become one.
Yeah. And I'm cool. And I know you're apprehensive about it. But if I'm down to go with the traditional.
I'm still down. I still like the hybrid.
But
I think the hybrid is
Yeah.
Okay.
That's a good idea. So I think what we should do, let's all give it some time to see how we really feel. We could probably debate on this for hours.
Smoke some weed about it.
Yeah, however your decision process takes.
And I'll make this audio for everybody so we can all hear our discussion on it. And we.
What I want to do is re-listen.
Yeah, I'm gonna relive this last 2 minutes.
Or just also the people who don't want, who can't be here. It's great for them.
At 15
Can we
minutes.
maybe just go over some more points that you might have?
Yeah, let me do this. Let me just go through my bullet points, and these are all the things that we should probably think and consider about.
And maybe send them put them up in a locked Google Doc for everybody to see at the moment.
So we just got through.
These are all the things that I think we need to think about, okay?
We got halfway through one.
So we're just going to do a redraft. Just snake redraft. Yeah.
$5.
Just no PPR. Let's just keep it easy. Roster sizes. Most commons, 20 total roster spots with 5 taxi squad spots. I already talked about that. Taxi squad is the developmental squad. A 3-year window for a taxi squad, I think makes the most sense. Sleeper lets you do, I think, anywhere from 1 to 5 years on the taxi squad. Scoring we need to consider. I know with the other leagues we have similar scoring except for Octagon. Scoring in this is going to matter because it'll change the dynamic and the economics of the league. If we go from a PPR to a standard league, or a non-PPR if you want to call it, that's going to change rosters. And if you do it immediately, that sucks. I drafted a receiver because I thought he was going to catch a lot of balls, and now none of his catches count because we changed it to a standard. So realistically, I think we need to have our own set of rules for scoring that's unique to this league compared to trying to mirror the other ones. Okay? Do we want to consider Superflex? Does everybody know what Superflex is?
I love the idea of Superflex.
I think we should. I think that's the way that.
Flex, but 2 quarterbacks max, right? Like you have multiple flex spots, and maybe one of them is a super flex.
Yeah, hang on. You have a quarterback spot and then a super flex spot. You can start a quarterback, receiver, running back, tight end in that spot. Hence, that's why they call it super flex. So it pushes quarterbacks up.
But you have the two best tight ends. You might be putting a second tight end in that thing. Matchup dependent, right?
Yeah.
Matchup dependent, right?
Sure. Or like you got one of your quarterbacks is on bye or hurt or whatever. There's going to be situations where somebody starts a running back, receiver, tight end, whatever.
But probably for 9 of those teams on any given week, yeah, it's a 2 quarterback league.
So I think we should. I think the industry is moving that way. They're just not there yet.
This is a 12-team league.
12-team league. So super flex, there's 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. In theory, everybody should at least have 2. Right, 2 quarterbacks, so that you're at least starting 2 quarterbacks. Obviously, there's some flexibility in there.
So do you max out how many quarterbacks you can have on your roster so when that guy doesn't draft 5?
To be honest, I don't think that'll happen.
Roster before you.
I don't think that'll happen.
Without
I don't think that'll happen. I don't think that'll happen. The only reason I say that is because the demand for quarterbacks gets so much higher. And from what I've seen in a Superflex league, the first round is dominated by quarterbacks because the demand is there. Yes.
Did you already mention this? What would the rest of the starters look like? Because I think that was one thing that I looked at. I like these like dynasty things, like when you have those big starters, like big amount of starters, it creates also like the waiver wire is like what the like, it's a lot of trading in the bottom half of the league.
Yeah, so I didn't really think about the rest of roster spots. So I have a tight end thing because like tight end's a scarcer position. There's only 5 to maybe 6, 7, 8 guys that are like decent, and then everybody's lost in the mix. There's leagues called tight end premium. Anybody hear of those? Yeah. So they put a premium on a PPR point for them, like 1.5 if you're in a 1 point league, whatever that looks like. That helps push tight ends to be more relevant. So just something to think about. Like we can think about PPR versus like half point versus not having a PPR. Just something to think about.
What about IR?
I think you should have at least 5 IR spots. Here's my rationale: is if it's a keeper, like a dynasty or salary cap or whatever, like Nick Chubb gets hurt, lost for the year. In a redraft, you cut him. Aaron Rodgers. In a keeper league, in a dynasty league, you put him on the IR because you need him for next year. If you cut him, he's gone. So you need to have those extra IR spots. In the NFL, they have unlimited IR spots. Obviously, they have huge rosters, but I think 5's the minimum. I think it should be 10. And I understand people's arguments against all these IR spots, some guy's just going to pick up all these guys on out and IR and stuff. All of the valuable players will be on rosters, regardless, even if they're hurt or whatever. The waiver wire is already crap, so who cares if there's less, there'll just be less guys there. It doesn't really matter. Make sense?
Yeah.
Tanking. We absolutely should have a rule. We already talked about the max points for. I think that's the best way to do it. Our league, we do a lottery system right now where we do the lottery balls. I think we should incorporate something like that. That way it's just, you finish last, you're not guaranteed that pick. You just get a higher probability of getting that pick.
It's like the NBA draft.
Exactly. Something we implemented in our league is a loser's bracket. So if you win the loser's bracket, you automatically move up 1 spot in the rookie draft. Something fun. I just like to keep more people engaged throughout the season. Like some guy, I think he finished second to last. He actually won the loser's bracket. So like whenever we do the lottery, if he picks the 1 ball or the 2 ball, he'll be the first pick. Automatic 1. There's no advantage. There's no extra pick or anything like that. Just higher probability. Like other ways to help with tanking, have a weekly high score winner. We do that in our league. I would say it doesn't work.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Like I mentioned before, don't allow them to trade too many picks ahead in the future, just in case someone's like, well, I'm gonna fuck this team, then you just completely fall off.
I do have that's actually my next topic, is orphan teams, is what they're called. Right. Anybody who decides to quit the league, their team turns into an orphan team. Obviously, we're gonna try to fill that spot as quickly as possible. The situation you could potentially run into is this orphan team is just completely gutted. I think, in my opinion, there's 2 ways to help offset that. Either if you're trading a future draft pick, you gotta pay next year's dues. I've traded my first for next year. I got to pay a $500. I'm going to pay for next year's dues to get it paid up. That way there's but the only problem is like if I'm trading a 3rd round pick, or like a 3rd round rookie pick, 4th round rookie pick, however many rookie picks we want to do. Like 3rd and 4th round rookie picks, they're not as highly sought after as 1st round picks. Was Puka Nacua a 3rd round pick in ours?
Probably.
You know what? I think he lasted to the veteran draft.
Oh yeah, he was $1.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
He didn't even go on the rookie. He didn't
He's a
even go on the
orphan
rookie
team. It's
draft.
like if it's traditional.
Nobody saw him
everybody
coming.
Keeps 20 players for eternity, essentially, if they want to. Team coming in that's buying an orphan team. Is there like a keeper, or you gotta make 4 players available, or?
They inherit that team.
Expansions.
They inherit that team. I do have league expansion talks in there too.
They pulled like one player from each.
Yeah, they just inherit that team. Whatever draft picks they have, whatever they have. You could have, if the team sucks,
Because the team's gonna suck.
maybe. Or somebody moves away and just like, hey, you know what, I'm kind of done with this. Or maybe has a disagreement with one person in the league and F all you guys, I don't want to hang out with you, whatever. Or somebody passes away, like you said, you want to be able to have a fail-safe in place to say, okay, this team, I think having the league do paid for already, saying, hey, your first year's free, this thing is gutted, you're going to probably be in a rebuild, whatever that looked like. And the new team just coming in just gets a discount. So instead of paying $500, you only pay $200.
But is it if you want to drop your team, you pay half of next year's dues? Because we're all in this.
It's hard to get somebody to buy in.
And then all of us, Annie 20, and that guy's, whoever comes in, that's 500 or some version.
I just think it should be a discount. I don't think we should just contribute more money. We can. I mean,
Quits to fucking pay a fine.
they can easily just say, fuck you, I'm leaving.
They quit. They're probably not going to be playing in any of these leagues ever again.
Yeah, I have a hard time seeing us get money from that person. So I think my 2 proposals fixes that. It's either like that team's gutted and they don't have future draft picks. Because more than likely, if they're like the 11th or 12th pick, they're going to have the 1st or 2nd pick in the next year's draft. That's a good enough incentive for the new team to come in and say, okay, that's fine. At the end of the day, Aaron, you're just going to have to feel them out of saying, hey, here's the team, here's what it looks like. Do you want to join? If they're like, ooh, this team really sucks. So you know what? We understand that. We'd be willing to say, hey, like first year you're only in for $200, or maybe first year's free, whatever that may look like. Obviously, that takes away from the pot for the next year, but at the end of the day, 500 times 12 is not a bad number for more than likely the top 4 payout. If that's the way you're still running it.
Yeah.
I don't know that we have to get all the way to the end of this conversation today, but first year's free is also, hey, here's one free shot at it.
Here's one.
And please don't walk away.
Walk away after that first year, because that's a pretty damn good deal on a scratch off.
Yeah.
I've been searching for those leagues all over town.
And again, like I said,
You got those free leagues?
conversation right now, but just to throw that out there, I'm like,
At the end of the day, we need to fill the spot.
yep.
So if the team is really bad and we were like, okay, nobody's going to pay for this thing, do you want to spend $1,000 to play in year 2? Because you're at the first year you're going to donate $500. That doesn't sound very fun.
Is there, just so we know,
Right.
walk away from this, we're probably not hanging out too much longer. Is there any of the 3 choices that if this league decided to go with, any of us, because we're only 9, would just say, I don't want to play that way?
But you did.
Because I walked in here just like him, saying if it's walk in and one click of the bingo machine and it comes out terrible and they get to keep all their guys for 27 years until I'm dead, do I want to pay $500 or keep getting fined if I leave? Do I want to, are we all comfortable saying if that's the direction we go? Because I will sign on for that, but is anybody, we should know, or if it's salary cap, like I don't know. Do Word or spreadsheets or Excel or get too in the weeds. Like we should know that.
Yeah.
Because that would affect my decision.
Sure. I am like leaning towards that hybrid way to keep it organic, to keep it.
But is there one of the versions
Is
of
there
this?
one of the versions that
will
just-
play?
No, I'm not. I will go through. I will go through this journey till the very end. Obviously.
I'll say that, like,
Let's just go around.
my last choice, but I also understand that if this thing is 25 years long, none of these guys are actually in practice playing that fucking long.
Oh yeah, there's plenty of turnover.
How long did Tom Brady? There's going to be natural turnover.
That's what I'm saying. The NFL turns over. Who's
retiring
relevant,
and getting
who
there,
retires, who has career-ending injuries.
So I could play that for
There's not going to be shit.
and be okay with it.
You just have to go and understand. You're going to get a little uncomfortable. Eventually, you might get a little disappointed, but you have to understand it's a long journey. And that's what we're here for, is to find the people who want to go on that journey. And that's why we're just sitting here talking in February about it, that we're going to do it. And so we're serious about it. We're not just patching this thing together last minute and hoping everyone is cool with it.
Yeah, I don't want to walk into the draft too, and I feel comfortable now saying, because Travis Kelce's of the world are going to be discounted because they're old. And some guy walks in and says, I'm going to draft all these old players on a discount, have a loaded team for 1 year, win $3-4 grand, walk away. See, that'd be the smartest way to walk into the draft.
Now that you mention it, now.
I'm moving, sorry guys. That would be
Sounds
the
like
thing
my
to
kind
do.
of team, dude. Not to quit, but I hate shitty players.
As long as
I like to look at my
feel more
roster and be like,
comfortable now
yes,
that
those
everybody's
are awesome.
20 points here.
Not like, oh my
has
God.
intention to play it out.
I will personally, I'll start on that. Like, I will play any one of these variants with you guys. None of them deter me as far as being like, I want to do it. So I think that's my call on that.
I think
My call on that.
to make things easier, does anybody have an issue with one of the styles? I will 100% not play that style.
I don't think anybody wanted to play the traditional. You did, I'm sorry.
Traditional, we're gonna rule it off the table.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
I don't think we'll rule that off the table.
That's fine. We're down to 2.
Does
Okay.
anybody have a problem on the flip
Well-
side of that coin with ruling traditional off the table? Is there anybody that just has to play that way?
No.
Okay.
I think we should lean towards right now doing the contracts and the hybrid, where we're doing the rookie and the veteran currently, and now we can change our mind on it.
When we continue working on building that system here, so we can build what we think is going to be something that's going to turn into a fair and parity-driven league.
Right.
A lot of those mechanisms, like the starters, the super flexes, how we structure these contracts, how many years, a lot of that's going to dictate how this all works. You know?
Right.
So I mean, we have an opportunity to get it right. It's just spending the time and like having these conversations about what.
We're gonna be.
Because your bullet points are excellent. And to be honest, I care a lot less about those bullet points, but they're really well thought out. I would agree to them all. And like the basic system. Once the basic system's set, like I can walk away and y'all can agree to whatever you want.
Yeah.
I did all the research like 3 years ago to figure this thing out, and I was like, I want to try to figure it all, like exactly what we're doing here today. I want to try to figure it all out to avoid surprises. At the end of the day, it wasn't perfect. We still have issues. They're not huge, but we're still we're voting on it to work it out. We developed the lottery system after year 2. We're going to probably vote for max points for the bottom 7 teams to be determined their draft order. We're going to vote on that. It's majority rules on that. I do have other points to hit, but I think if everyone's fair with it, let's give the salary cap versus, do we want to call it contract style? Yeah, we're going to marinate on that, and then I want to roll through all the other bullet points.
Okay, so that's what we're gonna loosely go with right now, is the contracts and the rookie and the veteran.
Versus salary cap. Or we can vote on it right now.
I think we voted on it twice, and the hybrid was.
Okay. Okay. One more.
Salary hybrid.
I thought we had it for the hybrid and 2 for the.
Let's just vote. Okay, who wants salary?
Shit, I'll do it. Yeah.
Literally like 20 minutes ago, you were leaning towards.
Well, it's so appealing. Everything's so appealing to me.
I'll do that one too.
To let them know what we need to vote on that separately.
Yeah, let's table that for now.
Salary versus contract length. Fair? Okay. So we talked about orphan teams. This is probably a small thing. It doesn't matter what style we do. But I've heard of dynasty leagues doing end of regular season. We do, I think, week 10 or week 11. Usually there's a little bit of activity before that. I've heard of leagues going all the way to the fantasy championship for the trade deadline. I don't like that idea. I like to I think like week 10, week 11 makes a lot of sense, just to because people are still, I'm not really sure if I'm going to make a run at it or whatever. So it gets people to either push or whatever. Taxi squad players can be traded directly to a new team and stay on the taxi squad. Sleeper, currently, if you trade one player, it's just a little bit of a maintenance thing. You trade a player from taxi squad to a new team, they're automatically activated. I like the idea of being able to trade laterally to a taxi squad. It's something we discovered, so I figured we'd talk about it. If we're doing the contract, regardless of salary cap versus just the contract length, free agents, in my opinion, like you pick somebody off the waiver wire, automatically 1 year deal, can't re-sign them.
Yeah.
Just 1 year only? Yeah, you can't sign it for.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about like having a moratorium during the off season, but regardless of whichever way we go, it'll automatically happen because if we're doing either a salary cap or a contract length. We talked about the rookie draft. Probably we can figure out when to do it, but I think offline makes a lot of sense. We do three rounds currently. I'm not opposed to 4 rounds, but it just depends how we want to shape the thing and how many roster sizes we have. We already talked about league fee. It's $500.
Yeah.
Or do we want to vote on that?
Yeah, and we're all here. Do we want to? That's how I set it up. With the first team win three gets the extra pot. Do we want it to be 25 or do we want it to be 50?
$50.
Out of
Yeah.
each 500,
That's
12.
10%.
Maybe 25.
50 is
It's quite a bit.
$600 every year. It turns into a massive number. If it takes
$6,000.
conceivably
It should take
36 years or 12, and take 25 years.
So that's the thing too. So say you completely fucking tank for the first 7 years on purpose. Now you got all these fucking things. You make a run at it. Years 7, 8, 9 because you have that extra.
I will note that's very hard to do. Yeah. It's very hard because realistically that's the idea every time you tank is you are like, I want to build this thing out. Yeah.
Even $25 a year is likely thousands of dollars.
I say 25. I think 25 sounds good. And the winners are getting more. The winners year are getting more.
Playoff configuration. I like the idea of the last team getting in is the most points for instead of record. So like you had just an unlucky run of like just facing all the top teams every week.
That's Andrew.
Last year I got my money back for points for.
And the last remaining 6 teams, whoever has the highest point, or I'm sorry, the last remaining 7 teams, whoever has the highest points, that team's in.
17?
I say it's 7 because you're fighting for that 6th spot in the top 6. So the last 7 remaining teams
I have some reservation.
is fighting for that 6th spot. Go ahead.
I have some reservation just because if those last, like if the first person out and last person in are extraordinarily close, and maybe they played a head-to-head game and they were making a decision to win a singular game, and it affected their aggregate points for, it would be devastating to watch that person potentially lose out on a playoff spot.
Provided you play head-to-head against each other.
If it was like
Head-to-head's not even a component in current fantasy. So if I played you and I beat you and we had the same record at the end of the year, you had more points, you're in. If our records are tied.
Yeah.
Even though I beat you.
That's their typical.
But if those records are not tied
Yeah.
and you leapfrogged me,
David, is your goal just to make sure the person who has the best team, so to speak, gets a chance?
It's just, I had a good year. I just faced the wrong guys every week. Yeah, like it sucks just because you have the most points out of the remaining 7 teams and you're third to last.
so we're saying there's like basically 6 auto qualifiers.
And then the very last.
The top 5 make it based off record and points for, right? Record then points for as far as tiebreakers.
Yeah, 6 spots.
The 6th spot is points for only.
And if one of the top points persons in the top 5 spots, then it doesn't matter, right?
Yeah, the top 5 is locked. The remaining 7 teams, it's whoever has the most points gets into the playoffs.
Total or
Just points scored that they started. It's not max points for. You made bad roster decision. That's on you. It's how many what your actual points for was for the regular season.
I have some reservation. I think I need to think about that.
I've seen leagues that do, technically you can, the top 6 scoring teams win that week, and then there's also the head-to-head match.
I was gonna get to that too.
So you could do.
I was gonna get to that too.
Technically go 2-0 on a week.
Right.
Or if you you and the player you're playing against had the 2 worst scores of the week.
Right, like the two
Somebody
top
wins, but
players
then you
played
both
each other
also
that
win.
week.
Yeah, I think they call it like going against the median. Sleeper can automatically do that. So you actually,
So that might be it.
at the end of the year, I think was it 14 weeks for regular fantasy football?
yeah.
So you would be 28-0 if you were perfect every week, right? Instead of 14-0 or whatever. So that kind of takes a little bit of the unluckiness of the head-to-head component out of it. New rule creation, I'm a firm believer in anything that is going to impact the season that you're in doesn't go into effect till the following year. If it's a like a weird thing that pops up and there's no rule for it, I think it goes to a league vote that's majority, or commissioners just decide, hey, this is probably what's best for the league at this time. So for example, if we didn't do Superflex, and we say, hey, maybe next year we'll do Superflex. Or let's say we don't do Superflex, and then next year we say, hey, let's add a Superflex. We don't add it on for that year. Everybody gets a catch-up year to readjust their rosters and figure it out. And then the following year, 2025 or 2026, you'd be able to do it.
I do like that because it gives you a year to prepare. Because something like a Superflex
Because you have contracts.
changes your entire strategy and roster creation. Like roster building.
Right.
So it gives you a year to.
Because at the end of the day, you could have only one quarterback on your roster, and you're like, we're moving to Superflex. Now I need 2. It'd be nice to have 3 for bye weeks and stuff. So yeah, it can be a really big deal. And to be honest, if we move to a Superflex, and this is just the example, maybe the time horizon's even longer. Maybe it takes 2 to 3 years to get to that move. Realistically, I think we should just do Superflex right off the bat, but that's just that example. But like for other rules or other considerations, or maybe we want to add another flex spot. We don't do it for that first year, we do it for the following year, something like that. In my opinion, does it directly impact any team? Does any team have an advantage for that season? If I feel like none of it does, then I think we should implement it that year. If it does have strategy involved, different roster considerations, whatever, then I think it's tabled for the following year. We can obviously cross that road when we get to it, but something to think about. I think we should do FAB over reverse standings, waiver wire. Is that?
Yes. Everybody like FOB? Everybody like FOB?
Yes.
It's just like an auction.
When does the season roll over? We do March 1st. It doesn't really matter. You just want to do it before the rookie draft, regardless of which way we go. I think if we do March 1st, we got a week and a half to make roster decisions on guys we want to maybe cut, take a dump on take a dead cap hit if we're doing salary cap, or like for contract length, it's like getting rid of that contract. Rules for league expansion. So if we wanted to go to 14 teams instead of 12, do we want to have that all written out? Everybody's head spinning yet?
I think it's good to have some sort of contingency, right?
Yeah.
Have it written out.
People just begging to get in this thing.
If somebody wants to join and we want to expand, the earliest we could do that is 2026, so that we had time to figure it the fuck out.
Yeah.
That is all I had.
How's everybody feeling?
I think everybody's confused.
I really want to do this. I really want to get into it. And yeah, this is the tedious stuff we have to deal with first. But
So for this year, it'll start a normal auction with the rookies who are just in the bag.
Yep.
And we're auctioning them along with it. And everybody's going to pay too much for rookies.
The rookies are in.
yes.
Got it.
So it's fair. It's just everybody's available.
But we're going to set up the vote. We're going to do that Google Doc, and then we'll just have everybody kind of vote on. I mean, you and I will probably chat about it, and then we'll go, hey, let's set up a vote for this and for this, and then that'll be our initial concrete structure at first.
And I think the other things we can figure out and vote on. But to be honest, the way that I developed our league was like I just wrote the thing, and then say, hey, what do we want to nitpick?
Okay.
That might be easier because obviously there's a lot of stuff to consider. So it's the way that I might have gave you this example before. It's like the way that politicians do it. They put a bill or whatever together and say, hey, what do we think? And then they pick it apart and then they vote on it again and whatever. I think that's probably the easiest way to do it. It's let's figure out what league we want to do. I'll write the whole thing up, or like a really rough draft, like bullet points. I'm like, this is what we should think about, or whatever. And then we determine what we want to change.
We'll just start the open dialogue for, hey, are we happy with this IR? Are we happy with this? Are we happy with that? And then we just tweak it till the end. Awesome.
With my experience, when I wrote it up last time, the majority of people are like, I trust you, that's cool, let's go with that. So more than likely it could go that way, but I think considering just want to make sure that we get every little point as far as correct as we can. And I've given this a lot of thought. It's not going to be perfect by any means. We're going to run into an issue in the future for sure. But I've tried to think of everything, I'll say that. But I'm sure I haven't.
I feel like you have, and I feel like we cannot do this. We wouldn't be able to do this really without Ryan and David, and everybody else is great, and everybody put in great anecdotes and thought into and great discussion into it. But it's a lot to think about. There's a lot of different ways to think about it, especially for something that's going to go on for a long time. And I just really appreciate everybody coming and doing it. It's special. It's awesome, and it's only going to get better if we all just keep give it 100% and really want to do it. It's going to be a phenomenal experience, I think.